Hello and welcome to Happy Herbivore Live. I am Scott Nixon. I am one of the co-founders at Happy Herbivore and Meal Mentor, and today we are interviewing Jennifer. And Jennifer is started as a Blueprint customer and became a meal plan customer. And Jennifer, can you kind of tell us, what your kind of story is briefly, and kind of how you came to Meal Mentor and Happy Herbivore?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Scott. So kind of as a young adult, I decided to go vegetarian, and I was vegetarian for a good portion of time, and I was pretty slender as a young adult too, just kind of naturally lucky, I guess. And then I had some kids, maybe gained a little bit of weight after the kids, but still I did Weight Watchers. I was able to kind of get back down a little bit. And as life sort of progressed, I kind of lost sight of being a vegetarian, and then maybe in the process put on a little bit more weight. And then in 2016, what happened was I went to the doctor with some knee pain. And my doctor said to me, "Of course you have knee pain, you're fat." And he actually told me, "Yes, you're overweight. I expect this." So he said, "Lose 40 pounds, and then we'll tack." It turned out to be arthritis in my knee. But heeding the doctor's advice, I did set out to lose the weight, and I could tell that the weight had crept on, and I was feeling it, but I hadn't realized at that point, until the cold water in the face.
Yeah.
So I set off. At this point, I picked up with the South Beach diet. And I lost, 10 pounds right away. Mm-hmm. And then from that point, I ended up losing 30 pounds, but I don't attribute it all to that diet. I really was focused on counting calories and pretty strict with the eating. But ultimately I hit a point where I just plateaued, and I was getting frustrated, even with really watching the calories and everything. I couldn't get past that 30-pound mark. Right about this point was back in this March, and I saw Lindsay's The Shortcut to Slim Blueprint advertisement, and at that point I thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose at this point. Let's give it a go. And I thought, I'll do anything at this point. Let's just see if this works. So I bought it. I read it. And I loved her message at the beginning. It really resonated with me. She said, if you have been like this, if what you're doing is not working, give yourself up to the process of a new process. Like, let go and move on. And it resonated with me. I've been kind of spinning my wheels, really trying to make what I was doing work, and it just wasn't working. Mm-hmm. So I gave up, and I said, okay, I'm just going to do this, and let's see what happens. So right away, not only did I lose the final 10 pounds, but I actually I got below what my goal weight was. It just melted off. And it was easy. Like I was full all the time. I didn't feel like I was really missing anything. You hear a lot about, but I can't give up cheese, Mm-hmm. And I never missed anything because there was so much food. The variety was great. I was trying new things that I didn't think that I would, I didn't think I liked before.
Yeah. What were some of those things? I'm kind of curious.
Curry.
Curry.
I always thought I didn't like curry, right? But I said, I'm going to follow it to the T and give it a go, And it kind of opened my mind to a lot more things that I had been avoiding all along. So the other thing, too, is, my husband and I were at a point, our parents, our grandparents, they're starting to age, and we're seeing some more of the chronic illnesses in them. And, we're kind of suck the marrow out of life kind of people. We really want to get the most bang for our buck. And so we are, we don't want to go into our adulthood, struggling with these issues. So we are really looking at it from a health perspective, too, of how do we avoid the chronic illnesses coming later in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, very cool. So, have you brought your husband along a little bit with some of the diet or just different foods and stuff?
Oh yeah, it's been great. He's a great supporter. He was kind of at the same point that I was, and just as we were, happily married and sort of putting on the pounds a little bit together, right when I started doing Meal Mentor, I said, the Blueprint. I said, do you want to join me in this? And he said, okay, but I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to keep, I'm still going to do that. And I said, you know what, never mind. Like, you're either in or you're out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did the first cycle. I actually did 3 cycles of the Blueprint. And I did the first cycle, and he told me, you know what, it's not working. He was at a plateau as well, and I said, well, you could join me.
Yeah.
So he did. He jumped on board, and, his results have been the same. He felt the same way, it just came off, and loving the meals, too. So after I did 3 cycles on the shortcuts.
Did you do them 3 in a row?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And my husband joined me for the second and third.
Which would be about 6 weeks, I guess, right?
Yep, exactly. And right at that point, I said, you know what, I'm sold. I'm in, and I signed up for the meal plans. And shortly thereafter came the annual membership, and I said, you know what, this is it. We love it.
Mm-hmm.
So
awesome.
We're sold. So.
Awesome. So how's your transition been from the Blueprint to the meal plans? Can you kind of explain what's your experience, good and bad? We'd love to hear it all.
I actually continued to lose weight on the meal plans. It's still right within the healthy zone of where I needed to be. But I still found it just easy to be where I needed to be. And it's been, the meal plans for us are even easier because what we do is we do the family meals, and we'll each eat a serving for dinner and then pack up a serving for lunch. So I don't have to make that separate lunch, so that it's actually been kind of a smooth transition for us.
Nice. Awesome. The is there anything that you're still kind of struggling with, either food wise or making it, working things into your schedule or anything like that? I'm kind of curious.
I think our biggest challenge is we do have a big family here. So there's myself and my husband, and then we have 7 children total between the 2 of us. The oldest is out of the house, but we have kids coming and going, but 6 kids here at least part of the time. And we have any varying degree of omnivore, vegetarian, and vegans in the household, and then whole food plant-based. So feeding this army, it is a challenge for us sometimes. And I don't want to become a short order cook, but, I've been doing the meal plans for my husband and myself, and then I've been cooking a separate meal for the children, but now we've got, kids that want vegetarian meals, and some of my children have decided they want to try a vegan approach, and then there's some who are just stubborn and unwilling to try any of it. So feeding everybody has been a challenge, but actually with the meal plans have made it easier for us because my husband and I, we just do our thing, and then I can usually get something going for all the kids that the problem I'm having, though, is they've started to see what we're cooking. They want to come taste it, and now a lot of them want to eat what we're eating. And
nice. There goes your lunch.
Yeah, exactly. So I might have to double those meals.
Nice. Very cool. So everybody, if you're enjoying this story, it give some thumbs up and love to the fact that she's making this work with her husband, and she's got like 6 kids that are even getting excited and interested about this. This is really cool. So, I know that. Oh man, there was so much in that initial first batch. It's almost like I want to take notes sometimes, but then it's going to be obvious I'm like distracted while I'm like having this interview or whatever. With the blueprint, when you're coming to it, and I said, one of the things I thought was really interesting is that you said you were kind of giving yourself over to it. And so I'm kind of curious, have you found yourself resistant to diets, or have you found yourself resistant to, I guess I'm kind of curious what's going on there, what your struggles are with, taking on new challenges.
I'm usually pretty much like an all-in kind of person.
Okay.
So following the rules, so to speak, isn't really a problem for me.
Okay.
I guess the bigger challenge was kind of what our notions of like a healthy diet are.
Yes.
So, I had just come from a diet where they recommend like a protein with every meal, and like the vegetable with every meal, which is great, but and then restricting the carbs. Mm-hmm. And so you start to get set in like that mindset, and then seeing something that's completely like 180 degrees different is really like, how am I going to survive without, or not focus on the protein or whatever. It's actually been really kind of liberating to not have to, I didn't have a protein with my lunch. Am I going to be okay? So I think the biggest thing was letting go of, those earlier preconceived ideas of what it took to make like a healthy diet or a healthy meal plan.
Oh, that's interesting. So, because was it I guess I'm curious about the challenge of were you feeling deprived or anything like that with the when they were trying to say no carbohydrates, or I'm kind of curious around some of that stuff. So.
Oh my goodness, I would have done anything for a potato. For a year and a half, with no potatoes. We did eat grains, but whole grains, and it was limited, so 2 or 3 servings a day. And it wasn't the focal point of the meal. It was really focused on the protein. Mm-hmm. Maybe have a little bit of fruit, Mm-hmm. So just, I was in heaven. I told my husband, I'm eating potatoes and I'm losing weight. It doesn't get any better than this.
You're like a low-carb refugee, right? It's like... So that's funny. It's really interesting. So, yeah, because I've never in my life tried to do anything low carb, and so I don't even know what that would be like. And I've never done, because I honestly, becoming a vegetarian was like the first kind of real diet-ish thing I ever did. There's basically just never been a diet. I was like, I'm going to join this diet, or I'm going to do that. And I was partly because I was so young, I think. But, it's just never been something I've done. Now, since then, I've done lots of different things like intermittent fasting. I've done multi-day water fasts and stuff like that. I've done potato fasts and different weird things like that, mostly just to kind of push my boundaries on like my mentality around food. And it's interesting that you were saying is that like, you had to change your thoughts around like, what was acceptable. So that's really cool, really interesting. You want to say something? Go ahead.
So another thing too, and this was really kind of a noteworthy thing to me, I had done the blueprint, and then I transitioned to the meal plans. And about 2 months into it, I had gotten down to my goal weight for really the first time in my adult life, and I was able to stay there. But it hit me that this is the first time, not only did I get there, and was able to comfortably stay there, but I wasn't counting points, I wasn't counting calories, I wasn't weighing and measuring. The focus on the quantity of foods that I was eating was gone, and I thought I was just going to have to count calories for the rest of my life to stay where I needed to be. And it was just an amazing feeling that
That's awesome.
I could do this without all that background noise,
Wow, that's awesome. That's really that's just a really amazing testimonial for yourself and so I think so many people, because it's not like we've invented this diet, right? Lindsay has basically come along and tried to give people solutions to kind of live on this kind of, it's like an all food but vegetarian diet. It's like, because I think the thing is that like a lot of people look at vegan or vegetarianism and they think there's like this massive restriction, right? And I think it's interesting because like, yes, you're not eating any meat, but when you look at most of the other restrictions you're mostly avoiding the restrictions of like highly processed things and desserts and crazy things like that maybe you probably shouldn't be eating anyways. And so it's really interesting because I don't really feel like most of the time whenever I think about food, like I don't feel like that I'm restricting myself, even though like, yes, I am clearly not eating certain like very, very specific things, so, and it's not that I don't eat processed foods, but, yeah, so it's cool. Interesting. Go ahead.
So much quantity of foods. Like I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything because, I was eating to fullness.
Awesome.
So I didn't feel restricted.
That's great. Yeah. And I've definitely, my experience is never that I really felt restricted. Sometimes I felt like there are no options for me. But that's kind of a very, I don't know, to me that's a little bit of a different kind of thought process. It's like, it's kind of like, I was never somebody who was like a big seafood person, and so like I would just be like, well, it's not really something I like. So I think that's kind of almost what I'm doing nowadays with meat. It's like it's just not really something I like, and so it doesn't feel like I'm like restricting, right? This has been an incredible interview, and I've really appreciated all of your shares. And so I want to give you the opportunity to kind of like give anybody who's interested in the plant-based diet, getting started with the blueprint, the meal plans, kind of like what do you what would be your recommendations for them kind of just getting started?
I definitely think the blueprint was the way to go. I didn't have any of those cravings. There was just such an abundance of food and just delicious food too, that especially for somebody who's new to like a plant-based diet or a vegan diet, it's a great introduction to it, and it's all laid out. There's no guesswork,
Yeah.
That was a great sort of transition for us.
Awesome.
I'm big into planning, so I think if you don't, what do they say? Fail to plan equals plan to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is really a lifestyle you can't just jump into without kind of knowing where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And the meal plans definitely, it took all the thinking out of it. I was able to just follow along and
Yeah, there was no crazy cooking, no crazy ingredients. Didn't take a long time to do any of those things, right? So
exactly.
yeah, pretty straightforward. So awesome. So sorry, I'm just like kind of like trying to get myself talking again, apparently. So one of the things I like to try to wrap up with is kind of like who you think we should interview next, and what are some topics maybe also that you would want to hear more about that maybe we haven't included enough of. I
picked Kevin.
Okay.
I'd love to hear a male perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
On here and see. Also, I just got back from a 2-week road trip across the country, and we were in some places that it was almost impossible. I mean, we had probably too many French fries and salads when we were there. So I would love to hear from those people who are kind of making it work against all odds. Where I'm so lucky to live where I live because we have such, so many different choices here. But we went to some places kind of in the Midwest where it's all foreign to them. So I'd love to hear more about, how to make it work.
Yeah, you're definitely getting seconds from Bev on the video about Kevin, batch cooking hero, she says. So.
Right.
So yeah, we'll make sure that happens. We'll get Tyler to help out with that. And awesome. Well, thank you for your recommendations. This has been a really incredible interview. It's really fascinating to me to hear. Like, I see bits and pieces of some of these stories from people because people leave comments and stuff like that, but it's rare that I get to hear these big or I guess I'm getting to hear it now more every week, but, like where we get these really comprehensive kind of deep dives into kind of what's going on with people's kind of transition and like how they make this stuff work for them and incorporate it into their family. So it's really cool. I really appreciate you taking the time, Jennifer. This has been fantastic, and thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.